Part 52. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 511. When Li Yuanba heard what the herald said, he felt that what he said made sense. Wan Liun is his own baby. He only eats when he feeds him. He doesn't even care when others feed him. Moreover, he hasn't eaten for several days just like him. He went to a banquet to eat and drink by himself. How could he do that? What about leaving it to starve? Not to mention how long it will take for me to eat this meal, I am afraid that when I come back, I will be drunk by Li Yuanji, and I might forget about feeding it. Then I will meet the Emperor of the Dragon Kingdom tomorrow. If it doesn't have the strength to fight, it will definitely lose. Thinking of this, Li Yuanba took the feed directly from the herald's hand and trotted away to the stable without saying a word. After feeding the horse, Li Yuanba could finally go to Li Yuanji's tent for the banquet without any scruples. This was indeed a bit impatient for him, who had been hungry for 3 days without eating. As the herald looked at Li Yuanba's excited departure, his originally expressionless face finally revealed a sinister smile. Then, he waved outside, and 10 of Li Yuanji's personal guards walked in. Without a word from the herald, the 10 people divided into 2 teams without saying a word, each picked up a drum, urn, and golden hammer and ran outside the camp. It stands to reason that as Li Yuanba's son and a prominent king of Zhao, Li Yuanba should have his confidants standing guard outside his tent just like Li Yuanji. But after all, Li Yuanba's intelligence was limited, and he was very violent towards everyone except Li Shimin and his parents, so naturally he had no confidants and no one was willing to guard him. At the same time, in Li Yuanji's Chinese army tent, Li Yuanji was holding up a wine bottle and said to Li Yuanba, "Fourth brother, for so many days, fortunately you have been here to block the Dragon Emperor Lu Feng. Otherwise with his force, I'm afraid that even if we have millions of troops, we will not be his opponent. In the past, third brother, because you only knew how to practice martial arts, third brother, I have never been very good to you. Now, third brother, I know how important you are. In the past, it was the third brother who was at fault. Now the third brother is here to admit your mistake. Come, let us brothers drink this glass of wine and forget all the unpleasant things in the past. The third brother will definitely treat you well in the future." Li Yuanji, after saying that, he took the wine bottle and clinked glasses with Li Yuanba. Li Yuanba was also very satisfied with Li Yuanji's performance today, and he was indeed hungry, so he did not refuse. He held the wine bottle and said, "Lao San, with your words, Yuanba will never hit Li Yuanji with a hammer again you." After Li Yuanba finished speaking, he raised his head from the wine bottle and drank it all. Then, regardless of Li Yuanji's greeting, he put down the wine bottle and pulled off a chicken leg to gnaw on it. When Li Yuanji saw that Li Yuanba was only focused on eating and didn't take any time to pay attention to him, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief and pretended to drink, but poured all the wine in the glass on the ground. For more than half an hour after that, Li Yuanji kept urging Li Yuanba to drink. Li Yuanba did drink a lot, but Li Yuanji didn't drink a sip and fell behind Li Yuanba's back. As time went by, Li Yuan wanted to eat all the food on the table, and Li Yuanji's face became more and more ugly. After all, when marching and fighting, there is a ban on alcohol in the army. In this case, he specially asked his men to run a long way for this banquet before buying so much wine. Li Yuanji originally thought that with so much wine and the fact that he had drugged the wine in advance, even if Li Yuanba's physique was different from ordinary people, he would definitely be able to faint on the spot. But he didn't expect that, not to mention the drug content in the wine, even a normal person who only drank so much wine would already be lying under the table drunk. However, Li Yuanba didn't react at all, regardless of the alcohol. Strength or medicinal strength. However, although Li Yuanji was a little helpless about this, Li Yuanba was about to finish the food and wine. If he didn't do anything, he was afraid that Li Yuanba would turn around and leave. Therefore, Li Yuanji could not care about anything else. Since he had made sufficient preparations to kill Li Yuanba, and he had neither defense nor weapons, it was the perfect opportunity to do it. Thinking of this, Li Yuanji calmly pretended to be drunk, and accidentally threw the wine bottle in his hand on the ground with a ae sound, which attracted Li Yuanba's attention. The reason why Li Yuanji pretended to be drunk even if he threw the wine bottle as a pretext was because he had no choice but to throw the wine bottle to the ground. It would have been too obvious. After all, he is sitting next to Li Yuanba. Once Li Yuanba sees the clues, he will definitely kill himself immediately. Even though he does not have that terrifying sledgehammer in his hand, his power is something that others cannot take away. Go. It was precisely because Li Yuanji's performance was so realistic that Li Yuanba mistakenly thought that he had really drunk too much and dropped the glass. So Li Yuanba looked at Li Yuanji and smiled heartlessly. Old San, it's not Yuanba who is talking about you. You are such a big man, why can't you even hold a wine glass safely? You see, Yuanba drank so much, it doesn't matter if you drink too much. Li Yuanji heard Li Yuanba's sarcasm and sneered in his heart, this trash with well-developed limbs and simple mind, who doesn't know he is about to die, actually has the nerve to laugh at me. But although he sneered in his heart, he still had to maintain his pretense of friendliness towards Li Yuanba before the ambush appeared. He rubbed his head and said with a smile, drink too much as. Li Yuanji said this, a group of soldiers rushed into the tent and surrounded Li Yuanba, who was still drinking and eating meat from a large bowl. Li Yuanba was not very smart. He drank too much and his reaction was even slower. When he saw these people approaching him, he did not react. He just thought that Li Yuanji had just accidentally fallen. The cup alarmed them. So Li Yuanba waved his hand and said nonchalantly to these soldiers, don't worry, it's just that the third child drank too much and accidentally dropped the cup on the ground. You can go back and stand guard. However, these people were prepared by Li Yuanji in advance. When Li Yuanba Yajin came up to kill him, how could he go back just because of his few words? So, while Li Yuanba was still drinking, two of them didn't pay attention to them. They immediately pulled out the steel knife from their waists and slashed at Li Yuanba. Feeler reminds you, 3 things about reading, collecting and recommending. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 512. These two people had obviously practiced beforehand. The 2 knives struck at Li Yuanba from different angles. Under normal circumstances, it would be a fatal blow for ordinary people to avoid. Let alone after drinking so much wine. But even so, they still miscalculated. After all, the person in front of them was Li Yuanba, the second Wuji general in the past 1,000 years since Yang Yu, the overlord of Western Chu. His realm and understanding of the rules of martial arts have made him sensitive to the murderous intent exerted on him by others to a level that ordinary people cannot even imagine. Neither feathers nor flies could get close to him, let alone the 2 steel knives that were slashing at him. As a result, everyone was stunned. Li Yuanba, who had been eating and drinking just now, suddenly burst out with a strong momentum. He not only dodged the attacks of the 2 men in an instant, but also beat them with 2 punches. He fell to the ground, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. Now that the sneak attack had failed, everyone stopped being cautious and almost simultaneously drew out their steel knives and swung them at Li Yuanba. Not only that, more soldiers continued to pour in outside the tent. At this time, no matter how slow Li Yuanba was, he had already realized that Li Yuanji did not want to entertain him at all, but wanted to take this opportunity to kill him directly. However, although he and Li Yuanji have always been at odds and the 2 of them dislike each other, they are brothers after all, and they have been in peace with each other for so many years. At this time, it was the time when Li Tang was fighting against the Dragon Kingdom. Why did Li Yuanji suddenly kill him? This was the first question that Li Yuanba thought of at this time, but the current situation did not allow him to think too much. As more and more solid wall pipes rushed over, he had no weapons at hand, so he had to grab the wine in front of him with both hands. The table was thrown at the people around it. This wine table is not a small table where two people usually drink together on the bed, but an 8 immortals table made of marble, with the legs and surroundings made of solid red sandalwood. Although this weight is not as heavy as Li Yuanba's drum, urn and golden hammer, it is definitely not something that ordinary people can hold. However, it flew up and down in Li Yuanba's hand. Anyone who was hit by it flew out on the spot and vomited blood. Death. With Li Yuanba's heavy smash, all the soldiers who rushed in first were thrown away by him, and the people who came later did not dare to rush forward at this time, so there was a rare open space around Li Yuanba. At this time, Li Yuanba finally had time to breathe, and then he roared at Li Yuanji. Li Yuanji, you bastard, how dare you plot against Yuanba, see if I don't kill you. However, Li Yuanji knew that he was not Li Yuanba. His opponent immediately left the tent surrounded by several guards. Li Yuanba wanted to chase him, but was immediately surrounded by many soldiers. After a while, not only did more and more people rush into the camp, but many archers rushed over at the entrance of the camp. At this time, they were already setting up their bows and arrows, just waiting for someone to shoot Li Yuanba. Become a hedgehog. When Li Yuanba saw this, he knew that he did not have the weapons in his hands. If he could not break out and return to his camp to retrieve the weapons, he would definitely be killed here. After making up his mind, Li Yuanba picked up a long knife, held the knife in one hand and the 8 immortals table in the other, and started to kill towards the door. When the archer at the door saw this, he immediately aimed at Li Yuanba. As soon as he loosened his grip, he shot arrows at him one after another. However, Li Yuanba was well prepared and moved the table of 8 immortals forward. All the bows and arrows were blocked. At the same time, the long knife in his hand did not stop at all, slashing at the people blocking the way in front. Even under such adversity, Li Yuanba still burst out with extremely strong fighting power, and there were still broken limbs and broken arms wherever he passed. It was a pity that the long knife was not in his hand and could not withstand his strength at all. He just chopped. After a while, it just stopped. Fortunately, after a period of fighting, the ground was full of corpses, and there were weapons everywhere beside the corpses. Li Yuanba could pick them up casually, but he still felt that these weapons were a bit awkward, and he needed to go back quickly to get his sledgehammer. At that time, Li Yuanba would not be afraid of an army of 2 million, let alone Li Yuanji's tens of thousands of troops. So Li Yuanba hurried to the door, but unfortunately the door was too narrow and he couldn't get out the 8 immortals table. He had no choice but to throw the table back, pick up 2 long knives, and kill all the way to his tent. However, as he left the camp, thousands of archers who had been waiting outside for a long time immediately fired thousands of arrows, and arrows all over the sky rushed toward Li Yuanba like locusts. If before, Li Yuanba had a pair of drums, urns, and golden hammers in his hands, these arrows would have been knocked away with just a few more swings of the sledgehammer. But at this time, he only had 2 long knives in his hands. Once he used too much force, these arrows would be blown away. The 2 knives will break directly. In desperation, Li Yuanba had no choice but to resist for a while speeding up and rushing towards his tent. But how could the tens of thousands of Li and Tang's troops outside let him break out so easily? They rushed towards his place regardless of their own safety. As the number of people around him increased, Li Yuanba had to increase the strength of his hands, so the 2 knives were quickly broken into 2 pieces. Without the knives, he could only avoid the flying objects by constantly dodging arrows directed at oneself. But with so many arrows, No matter how hard he tried to dodge, several of them were still stuck in Li Yuanba's back. However, in the Battle of Wanqing back then, Dian Wei, as a super general, was unarmed and was still able to fight for an hour even though he was hit by several arrows. Now, with Li Yuanba's level as the infinite general, these arrows cannot bring him any benefit at all. Fatal injury. Since Li Yuanba had already tightened his muscles all over his body, making his body as hard as an iron plate, the arrow only penetrated a few inches into his body and could no longer move forward. At this level, it was impossible to penetrate Li Yuanba's muscles and cause damage to the organs in his body. At most, it would only make him feel pain. And this biting pain just stimulated Li Yuanba's nerves that were slightly anesthetized by alcohol, causing him to wake up instantly. He reached back and pulled out the two bows and arrows stuck in his back, and threw them at the enemy with all his strength. With his great strength, the two bows and arrows he threw out at random penetrated the bodies of 3 Tang soldiers. After this period of fighting, Li Yuanba finally returned to his big tent, but at this time, the only thing left in the whole tent was the deep hole left by his pair of drums, urns, and golden hammers, but they were nowhere to be found. Weapon. To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 513. When Li Yuanba saw such a scene, he recalled that before he left, the herald insisted on leaving his weapons in the tent, and he immediately understood that this was a trap that Li Yuanji had designed long ago. However, even if Li Yuanba understood the entire story of Li Yuanji's incident at this moment, he still could not change the situation of being besieged, and the ordinary long knife was too light to show his strength at all. Seeing those archers rushing over again, Li Yuanba also got wise and grabbed the bodies of the 2 people he had killed from the ground and waved them around. The weight of these 2 soldiers is more than 100 kilograms, and together with a suit of armor, they weigh nearly 200 kilograms. Although it is not half as strong as his drum, urn, and golden hammer, it is still much easier to use than that long knife. The most important thing is it's this humanoid weapon that won't break. With these 2 humanoid weapons as a shield, Li Yuanba quickly ran towards the stable. Since there were no weapons that could defeat Li Yuanji's army, the best way was to escape quickly and come back for revenge later. However, when he arrived at the stable, Li Yuanba's anger became even more intense. He saw that Wan Liun was already lying on the ground. Although it seemed to be breathing, it remained motionless on the ground no matter how Li Yuanba shouted. Apparently Li Yuanji was afraid that Li Yuanba would escape, so he stunned the horse in advance. Of course, in addition to preventing Li Yuanba from escaping on horseback, the more important reason is that Li Yuanji also fell in love with Wan Liyun. After all, this horse is an absolutely top-notch war horse. It can carry Li Yuanba and his pair of 800-pound sledgehammers at full speed. Its endurance and speed are unparalleled in the entire Tang dynasty. If it can kill Li Yuanba will be dead. Yuanji naturally wanted to take this horse as his own. But at this time, Li Yuanji's plan went wrong. He was originally worried that Li Yuanba would not be able to be subdued even without a drum, urn, and golden hammer, so he mixed the wine with poison in an attempt to stun Li Yuanba again. Kill him without anyone noticing. But at this time, Li Yuanba had almost finished the drugged wine, but he was still fierce and difficult to defeat, which made Li Yuanji anxious. At this time, he happened to see Li Yuanba coming to Wan Liun's side, and immediately shouted to the archers, "Don't worry about Li Yuanba." All the archers shoot arrows at the horses. At this time, Li Yuanji was also acting as a doctor for dead horses. Since he could not capture Li Yuanba head-on, then use your brain. Li Yuanji is well aware of Wan Liun's importance to Li Yuanba. It can be said that in this world, the one Li Yuanba cares about most, besides his parents and second brother Li Shimin, is Wan Liun. In other words, in Li Yuanba's eyes, this war horse is more important than the eldest brother Li Jiancheng, the three Li Yuanji, the younger sister Li Ziyuning and all other brothers and sisters. So Li Yuanji was betting that Li Yuanba would not watch Wan Liun die in front of him, nor would he leave Wan Liun and run away alone. Sure enough, Li Yuanji was right in his bet. Upon hearing the shout, Li Yuanba immediately grabbed the two corpses, stood in front of Wan Liyun, and helped him block all the arrows. However, the good times did not last long. After struggling to withstand 2 rounds of shots from Ji's archers, Li Yuanba suddenly felt his head getting more and more dizzy. He even became unsteady and started to shake obviously. When Li Yuanji saw this, he was immediately shocked and realized that it was not that the drug did not work on Li Yuanba, but that the boy's body was different from that of ordinary people, and the drug was too powerful. However, no matter how slow it was, it still had an effect. At this time, Li Yuanba's movements had obviously become sluggish. I believe that it would not be long before he could not withstand the power of the medicine and fell to the ground. Li Yuanba also clearly felt something abnormal in his body. He knew that if it was just because of the power of alcohol, he could be said to be able to stay drunk even after 1,000 cups of alcohol. This amount of alcohol was simply not enough for him to perform like this. Then there is only one possibility left: Li Yuanji poisoned his food and wine. Thinking of this, Li Yuanba suddenly became furious and shouted loudly to Li Yuanji, who was not far behind. Li Yuanji, you bastard, you used so many tricks to deal with Yuanba. Just wait until Yuanba escapes. After I go there, I will definitely find an opportunity to smash you to death with a hammer. Even if my parents and second brother stop me, I will definitely smash you into pieces. Li Yuanji listened to Li Yuanba's threats in the distance, but he didn't care. He said calmly, who wouldn't be cruel, but you'd better worry about whether you can escape first. In my opinion, you are going to die here today, so there is no chance of being smashed to death. As for me, you should die first. Li Yuanba stopped arguing with him, because as his movements slowed down, 2 more arrows shot into his back. However, the pain from the arrows entering his body made him feel uncomfortable. Li Yuanba's increasingly groggy brain sobered up a lot. But this was just drinking poison to quench his thirst. As the effect of the medicine continued to deepen, Li Yuanba's movements became slower and slower, and his mind became more and more drowsy. The drowsiness of his brain and the slowness of his movements also caused more and more places on his body to be hit by arrows. The more arrows on his body stimulated him to wake up a little and made him resist the arrows harder. But as he increased his strength, the blood flow in his body gradually accelerated, making the medicine's effect penetrate more quickly. In such a vicious cycle, Li Yuanba still couldn't hold on for long. At the same time, the shouts of killing in Li Tang's army also alerted the Dragon Kingdom army not far away. Lu Feng could clearly hear the chaos in the opponent's formation without the soldiers reporting it. Lu Feng was very confused about this. After all, the Tang dynasty had unified the north at this time, and no other forces in the south near Yangzhou dared to go to war with the Tang dynasty at this time. Therefore, Lu Feng really couldn't figure out who dared to sneak attack Li Yuanji's camp at this time when he stood still, and this was while Li Yuanba was in the camp. Could it be that Guojia had already eliminated Xiao Xian of Liang State, and went around to the rear of Li Tang's army with Ma Chao and Shan Xiangxin to sneak attack their camp? However, this is obviously impossible. Although with Guojia's ability, it is not difficult to eliminate Xiao Xian, he also knows that even if he captures the Liang Kingdom, he does not have enough troops to guard it. Therefore, Guojia's goal was just to contain Xiao Xian and prevent him from sneak attacks on Yangzhou and Wuxing when Lu Feng went to war with Datang. Besides, if he really killed Xiao Xian, he would definitely tell him immediately. In addition, he also knew Li Yuanba's strength, so he would definitely not launch a sneak attack at this time. But since Ida Euro trademark s not Guochia, who else could it be? Just when Lu Feng was puzzled, Dian Wei walked in and said, "Your Majesty, Li Ziyuning, Princess Pingyang of the Tang Dynasty, would like to see you." Underscore. Fei Lu reminds you, 3 things about reading, collecting and recommending. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 514. Li Ziyuning? Why is she here? When Lu Feng heard Dian Wei's words, he was startled for a moment. Then he thought that since Li Ziyuning was in Chang'an and came to Yangzhou to see him at this time, it might be Wei Zheng's instigation, so he said to Dian Wei, "Let them come in." Dian Wei received Lu Feng's order, responded with a "oh," then turned around and left. After a while, he brought the people over. When Dian Wei led everyone into Lu Feng's tent, Lu Feng raised his head and looked at what Dian Wei had brought in. Among the 3 people, 2 of them were beautiful women who looked like teenagers, and the other was Wei Zheng. Seeing that Wei Zheng did not greet him immediately after seeing him, Lu Feng guessed that he must have concealed his identity from Li Ziyuning and the 2 women, so he didn't point it out, pretending not to know each other and looking at the 3 people who came in. Among these 3 people, Li Ziyuning, as a princess, has a much higher status than the eldest grandson Liu Zhao and Wei Zheng, who claims to be a servant of Li Shiman's house, so she didn't speak, and neither Wei Zheng nor Chang Sun Liu Zhao dared to speak. And Li Ziyuning came to Yangzhou to find Lu Feng this time to ask for his help. Naturally, she couldn't wait for Lu Feng to speak first. But while Lu Feng looked at her, she also looking at Lu Feng with wide eyes. Li Ziyuning originally thought that the Dragon Emperor killed Yuan Chengdu Dragon with 4 moves. To have such strong force and to suddenly recruit 20,000 troops to capture Yangzhou, he must be a middle-aged man who has secretly practiced martial arts for many years. Man. However, when they met at this time, they realized that the legendary Emperor Lu Feng was so young and quite handsome. However, Li Ziyuning had his own purpose in coming to Lu Feng, so he did not have time to look carefully, but took the initiative to speak. He greeted Lu Feng politely and said, "I am Li Ziyuning, Princess Pingyang of the Tang Dynasty, and I have met the Dragon Emperor." After Li Ziyuning finished speaking, the eldest grandson Liu Zhao and Wei Zheng behind her also greeted Lu Feng and introduced themselves. It's okay for the eldest grandson Liu Zhao. After all, her identity is there and she doesn't have to hide anything, but Wei Zheng, but he still talked to Lu Feng as a servant of Prince Jin's palace. Lu Feng felt funny about this, but he knew that Wei Zheng's move must have his own meaning, so he ignored him, but looked at Li Ziyuning and said with a smile, "I didn't expect that the famous Princess Pingyang of the Tang Dynasty would come to the Dragon Kingdom in person. I don't a Euro trademark T know what your highness is doing. Could it be that she wants to marry me?" Although Lu Feng said this as a joke, he also took advantage of Li Ziyuning. If it were any other woman, she would blush and ignore the person who spoke, but Li Ziyuning will definitely make the person who speaks pay some price. Come. But the one who spoke at this time was Lu Feng, the Emperor of the Dragon Kingdom, and she was in the Dragon Kingdom and had a request from the Dragon Emperor. Naturally, she didn't a Euro trademark T want to say anything more, so she had to pretend not to hear. Then, Li Ziyuning took the initiative and said Xiuning is here to ask the Dragon Emperor to help Xiuning take revenge. As long as His Majesty the Dragon Emperor can avenge Xiuning, Xiuning is willing to work as a cow or a horse, as a slave to repay His Majesty the Dragon Emperor, and to be at the Dragon Emperor's disposal at any time. Lu Feng glanced at Wei Zheng subconsciously after listening to Li Ziyuning's words. When he saw the corners of Wei Zheng's mouth raised slightly, he knew that Wei Zheng must have completed the task at this time and killed Li Shiman. In this case, the revenge Li Ziyuning mentioned may be just let yourself help kill Li Jiancheng and avenge Li Shiman. But if Li Ziyuning knew that Li Jiancheng killed Li Shiman, why not report the matter directly to Li Yuan and let Li Yuan punish Li Jiancheng, instead of looking for himself as his enemy? Help. Thinking of this, Lu Feng asked with a confused look. Revenge? What revenge can I take for you? When Li Ziyuning heard Lu Feng's question, she couldn't help but have a look of sadness on her face again. The things she had wanted to forget along the way came to her mind again. So, Li Ziyuning held back her grief and told Lu Feng. Feng explained softly, my father has made Li Jiancheng the crown prince, and the throne of the Tang dynasty will belong to him sooner or later. But for some unknown reason, he changed his usual composure. Not long ago, he killed my second brother Li Shimin, and at the same time led the Yulan army into the palace, forcing his father to abdicate. Now he himself has become the emperor of the Tang dynasty. Because my brother and sister Chang Sunwuji and I knew the truth, we were hunted down by Li Jiancheng. In the end, Chang Sunwuji died in the hands of the Yulan army. If the servants in the second brother's house hadn't tried to scare away the Yulan army, I'm afraid that Ziyuning and Wujia couldn't escape either. Then we escaped Li Jiankhen's pursuit and fled all the way to Yangzhou, just to ask His Majesty the Dragon Emperor to send troops to help us take revenge and rescue my father. Li Ziyuning is very good looking. In addition, she has practiced martial arts since she was a child. When she grew up, she has led soldiers to fight all year round. She has a heroic spirit about her. If she were an ordinary person, she would not refuse the request of this elegant beauty. But obviously Lu Feng would not be seduced by her beauty, but asked with a smile, there is no problem if you want me to help you take revenge, but the question is, what benefits can I get? The reason why Lu Feng agreed to help Li Ziyuning was not impulsive. Anyway, in order to pacify the world, he would attack Chang'an sooner or later and eliminate Li Jiancheng. This coincides with helping Li Ziyuning. Wouldn't it be better if he could get additional benefits? And Li Ziyuning obviously didn't think of this. She also knew that if she wanted a powerful man like Lu Feng to help her, it was obviously not enough to just rely on her own beauty. He needed real benefits. So Li Ziyuning frowned and thought for a moment, and finally determined, he said to Lu Feng, as long as your majesty can invade the Tang dynasty's camp, Ziyuning is willing to help your majesty persuade Li Yuanba to surrender. This is the only benefit that Li Ziyuning can think of now that she can give Lu Feng. After all, as the strongest general in the world, Li Yuanba will definitely be a great gift to Lu Feng if he can submit to the Dragon Kingdom. However, after she finished speaking, Lu Feng suddenly smiled and said, Princess Pingyang, in fact, your purpose of coming to Yangzhou in the first place was probably to find Li Yuanba, tell him what happened, and let him help you get revenge, right? It's a pity that you came a step too late. At this time, Li Yuanba was besieged by Li Yuanji's 50,000 troops. He was unable to protect himself. Naturally, you couldn't see him. That's why you came to me for help. In fact, after seeing Li Yuanba's crisis, rescuing Li Yuan is no longer your most urgent goal. Letting me lead troops to attack Li Yuanji and rescuing Li Yuanba is your primary goal now, right? Li Ziyuning didn't expect that Lu Feng would guess what he was thinking in an instant, and he was stunned on the spot. To read the underlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 515. In fact, before Li Ziyuning came to ask Lu Feng for help, Lu Feng didn't know the reason for the killing cry in Li Tang's camp. But now that he saw Li Ziyuning and Wei Zheng coming together, and contacted what Li Ziyuning said, he instantly wanted to understand the process of power. Since Li Jiancheng killed Li Shimin, he will definitely try his best to deal with all the factors that threaten him, and it just so happens that the most threatening person around Li Shimin is Li Yuanba. Not only did Li Yuanba have the best relationship with Li Shimin, but he also showed no concern for other people's lives. He was also born with supernatural power. As long as he had 2 hammers in hand, he could not defeat an army of 2 million. Therefore, once Li Yuanba returns to Chang'an and hears others saying that Li Jiancheng was responsible for Li Shimin's death, he will definitely smash him into pieces regardless of whether Li Jiancheng is the prince or the emperor at this time. If it were someone else, such as Qin Kaiyan, Yu Qigong, and others, Li Jiancheng would not be too worried. Because although they are brave enough, they are still far behind Li Yuanba, especially as long as Li Jiancheng has enough soldiers and horses, he can defeat them. The most important thing is that they are all people with normal intelligence and have their own subjective judgments. Although many people will guess or even secretly say that Li Jiancheng killed Li Shimin, this is just a guess after all. Without evidence, Qin Kaiyan and others will naturally not do anything drastic to Tang Emperor Li Jiancheng, otherwise it will be equivalent to treason. But Li Yuanba doesn't care about the evidence. As long as he hears someone saying that Li Jiancheng killed Li Shimin, he will definitely believe it and kill Li Jiancheng to take revenge. As for the hundreds of thousands of people and officials in Chang'an, Li Jiancheng couldn't help but shut up their mouths and refrain from saying that he killed Li Shimin. Moreover, Li Jiancheng was not only unable to prevent people from secretly discussing Li Shimin's death, but it was also impossible for Li Yuanba to never return to Chang'an and conceal the fact of Li Shimin's death from him. Therefore, in order to prevent Li Yuanba from blaming himself for Li Shimin's death, Li Jiancheng must strike first and let Li Yuanji, who had the best relationship with him, design to kill Li Yuanba to avoid future troubles. Therefore, it is not difficult to guess that Li Ziyuning's real purpose now is to rescue Li Yuanba. After all, although Li Yuan had been placed under house arrest by Li Jiancheng in Chang'an, his life was not in danger. Although Li Jiancheng was able to cruelly kill his younger brothers and sisters, he still did not have the courage to kill his father. In contrast, although Li Yuanba was unparalleled in martial arts, he was not very smart after all. Since Li Yuanji dared to openly fight Li Yuanba at this time, it meant that he had set a trap and was sure to kill Li Yuanba. After comparing this, naturally the desire to rescue Li Yuanba became even stronger. In fact, what Lu Feng inferred was very obvious and could be guessed with just a little thought. However, Li Ziyuning was a fan of the authorities and thought that since he did not tell Li Yuanba that Li Yuanba had been ambushed, Lu Feng could not know. Therefore, at this time, Lu Feng's performance had completely exceeded his expectations, and he knew that he was not only highly skilled in martial arts, but also had a first-rate intelligence. It is obviously not easy to deal with such a smart person. Filu reminds you, 3 things about reading, collecting and recommending. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 516. Li Ziyuning, who only knows how to practice martial arts and lead troops to fight all day long, is obviously not good at negotiating, so as soon as Lu Feng guessed her true purpose, she immediately panicked. So Li Ziyuning did not refute Lu Feng's speculation, but knelt on the ground very eagerly and begged, since your majesty already knows about Yuanba's danger, please send troops to rescue him as soon as possible. After that, Xi Yuning would rather serve your majesty as a palace maid. After Li Ziyuning finished speaking, the eldest grandson Wu Jiao behind her immediately knelt on the ground and prayed without saying a word, your majesty, please send troops to attack the Tang dynasty to avenge my eldest brother and his highness King Qin. Wu Jiao is also willing to serve your majesty as a palace maid and slave. Wei Zheng did not expect that Li Ziyuning and Chang Sun Wu Jiao would kneel down directly, but since the 2 women were kneeling, he as a servant naturally had to kneel down, so he also pretended to kneel down and ask Lu Feng to send troops. When Lu Feng saw this situation, he also knew that the 2 women had already exposed themselves first. Even if he tried to squeeze them, he couldn't squeeze anything out, so he might as well act more generously. So Lu Feng didn't say anything more, stood up directly, and said to Dian Wei on the side, okay, I will personally lead the troops to attack Li Yuanji's camp. Dian Wei, Yu, Han Sheng, and Feng Xian stay to defend the city. By the way, help me pass the order to Zilong, and ask him to take Bama Yakong with me. For so long, except when Li Tang's army arrived on the first day, Dian Wei and others killed Wei Wentung and others and went into battle. Had been watching Lu Feng and Li Yuanba's battle in the camp, which made them itchy and wanted to attack Li Tang's camp. However, because there was no order from Lu Feng and they knew that they were no match for Li Yuanba, they stayed in the camp and did not go out. But now that Lu Feng had decided to rob him, Wei naturally wanted to go with him. But he knew that his dragon soldiers were infantry, the first force in attacking the city, but cavalry was more suitable for robbing camps and rescuing people. In addition, the princess of the Tang dynasty was still there at this time, so he could not refuse Lu Feng's order, so he had no choice but to respond and turned around to inform Zhao Yun. As for Li Ziyuning and others, because Li Ziyuning also had martial arts skills, and she was worried about Li Yuanba, and wanted to persuade Li Yuanba to return to the dragon-subduing kingdom, she naturally had to go with Lu Feng. As for Wei Zheng and Chang Sun Wujiao, they stayed in Yangzhou city, waiting for Lu Feng's triumphant return. Outside the city, Zhao Yun led 3,000 white horse righteous followers, plus Lu Feng's 3,000 red blood dragon cavalry to complete the army. Just as he was about to set off, Li Ziyuning couldn't help but ask, Your Majesty, Li Yuanji has 300,000 Tang dynasty vanguard troops. How can you fight Li Yuanji with such a small force? Li Ziyuning saw that Lu Feng only brought with him 6,000 cavalry wanted to confront Li Yuanji's 300,000 army, so she was naturally a little surprised. After all, she had never seen the combat effectiveness of the Dragon Kingdom cavalry with her own eyes. Lu Feng looked at Li Ziyuning and said with a smile, We are just going to rescue Li Yuanba, and we are not going to fight Li Yuanji to the death. Why are we bringing so many people? After hearing Lu Feng's words, Li Ziyuning still didn't understand. After all, in the eyes, 6,000 versus 300,000, no matter how you look at it, you are seeking death. It is impossible for these people to all be monsters like Li Yuanba. Therefore, Li Ziyuning also wanted to remind, But Your Majesty, a euro. However, before Li Ziyuning finished speaking, Lu Feng had already rushed out. To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 517. Li Ziyuning felt angry when she saw Lu Feng rushed out without waiting for her to finish her words. As a princess of the Tang dynasty, she has been held in the palm of people's hands since she was a child, and she has always responded to everything. Role. Even when she grew up and lost those princess diseases due to practicing martial arts and fighting, because of her majesty and achievements, she still spoke the truth in the army, and she never had to worry about no one listening to her words. However, at this time, I was worried that Lu Feng would dare to rescue people among hundreds of thousands of troops with only 6,000 people. This was a fantasy no matter how you looked at it. However, I kindly reminded him that he left without saying a word. How could she bear it? Although the Dragon Kingdom and the Tang dynasty were enemies before this, Li Ziyuning had asked Li Yuan to lead troops to attack the Dragon Kingdom before. Logically speaking, she did not need to worry about Lu Feng. But at this time, as Li Jiancheng killed Li Shimin, placed Li Yuan under house arrest, and now wanted to kill Li Yuanba together, Li Ziyuning had nowhere to go and could only rely on Lu Feng to rescue Li Yuanba, rescue Li Yuan, and avenge Li Shimin. So she had to remind him, not for Lu Feng, but for the hope of rescuing her father and brother to continue. However, Li Ziyuning was not a hesitant person. When she saw that Lu Feng was so confident and ignored her, she did not turn her hot face on her cold butt. She gritted her teeth and followed Lu Feng on horseback. After all, no matter what purpose Lu Feng had, he was helping him to rescue Li Yuanba. Since he had rushed out first, he could not fall behind and make others think that he was scared. Li Ziyuning looked around and found Lu Feng's two cavalry teams, one with white robes and white horses, and one with red armor and black horses. Although they were small in number, they were all uniform. At first glance, they were definitely the Liudang soldiers who followed Lu Feng to rescue Li Yuanba. The 16th Root rebel king suddenly appeared when besieging Wei County and killed the backer King Yang Lin and the gun veteran Ding Yanping with a raised hand. This man is still wearing a white robe and a white horse, wearing a silver helmet and holding a silver gun, with a resolute and unsmiling face. Seeing this man, Li Ziyuning felt a little emotional. That day, she, her second brother Li Shiman, and Li Yuanba were on the nameless mountain 10 miles away from Wei County. They saw this man kill Ding Yanping in one shot and Yang Lin in 10 rounds. They were shocked. Military. At that time, he did not know the origin of this person, but the second brother asserted that this person must be a general under the Dragon Emperor, and now it seems that this is indeed the case. Now I see this man again after a few months, but he has already changed. Not only is he separated from his second brother forever, but Li Yuanba, who I always thought was invincible, is in deep danger. The person who was about to rescue Li Yuanba and avenge his second brother turned out to be the white-robed general that his second brother ordered Li Yuanba to capture that day. Things in the world are really unpredictable and unpredictable. Li Ziyuning was sighing alone here. Lu Feng in front of him had stopped and looked at him with a frown. Seeing this, Li Ziyuning felt a little panicked for some reason, and asked hurriedly and doubtfully, "Your Majesty, why don't you leave?" Lu Feng stretched out his hand, shook his head and said, "It's nothing, it's just that your horse is too slow and can't keep up. Our speed, come here, I will be with you." Underscore. Fei Lu reminds you, 3 things to do when reading, collect and recommend. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 518. Originally, Li Ziyuning had been thinking about other things, so she didn't notice the horse's speed. Now that Lu Feng mentioned it, she immediately felt that her speed was indeed a bit too slow. In fact, she can't be blamed for this. After all, the horse she is riding now was bought by Wei Zheng in a hurry when they escaped from Chang'an. Because time was urgent, this kind of horse was the only one that could be bought. Therefore, not only was her horse unable to match the speed of Lu Feng and Zhao Yun's horses, but even the horses of the 2 cavalry groups from the Dragon Kingdom were faster than her horse. She could not keep these 6,000 people waiting. Just be alone. Thinking of this, Li Ziyuning did not hesitate, directly held Lu Feng's hand, jumped on Lu Feng's Mo Kailan's back and sat in front of Lu Feng, and then Lu Feng held the Mo jade gun in one hand and held it in the other. He took the reins and led the army towards Li Tang's barracks. The camp of Li Tang's army was 20 miles away from Yangzhou city, but for Lu Feng and his troops, this distance was only about a quarter of an hour's journey. After all, their horses are top-notch war horses tamed at the Goguryeo racecourse in the Dragon Kingdom. After being trained by trainers after their job changes, their endurance and speed are several times stronger than ordinary horses. Especially Lu Feng's Mo Kailan and Zhao Yun's Magnolia White Dragon Colt are the best among horses. Even though Mo Kailan was carrying Lu Feng and Li Ziyuning on his back, his speed did not slow down and he led the way at the front. It stands to reason that when 2 armies are fighting, a large number of scouts will inevitably be arranged between the camps of the 2 armies, and the enemy troops will be closely monitored to prevent the camp from being attacked and robbed. However, because the Dragon Kingdom and Datang had been fighting for several days, there had been a tacit understanding between Lu Feng and Li Yuanba, and the 2 armies had no intention of fighting directly, so Li Yuanji relaxed his vigilance. In addition, he had received the order from Li Jiancheng at this time and was fully preparing to gather all the strength of the army to surround and kill Li Yuanba, and he did not take Long Kingdom to heart. This allowed Lu Feng and Zhao Yun, along with Qi Shui and Beima Yi, to rush to Li Yuanji's camp without any hindrance and successfully entered the camp. In an instant, there was a shocking scream at the gate of Li Tang's military camp. At this time, Li Yuanji was commanding the army and surrounded Li Yuanba in the middle of the military camp, unable to escape. Seeing that he was about to be killed, Li Yuanji naturally had no time to care about other things. So he said to a guard beside him, "Go and see what happened at the door, let them guard the door with peace of mind, don't make a fuss." The guard turned around and left after receiving the order, and soon ran back in embarrassment and said to Li Yuanji, he shouted, "His Royal Highness King Qi, it's bad, the Dragon Emperor has rushed into the camp with his cavalry." Li Yuanji didn't take it seriously at first, but when he heard the guard's report, he was shocked. Li Tang hurriedly organized the surrounding troops who did not participate in the siege and killing of Li Yuanba to intercept Lu Feng. However, as Lu Feng is the supreme tiger general, how can a few soldiers stop him? I saw him clamping his legs around Mo Kailan's horse's belly, holding the Mo jade gun in one hand and waving it around, while the other hand had already hugged Li Ziyuning, who was sitting in front of him. After all, Lu Feng still had to fight hard among the enemy troops at this time. It would be dangerous if Li Ziyuning accidentally fell off his horse. Therefore, he must not make such an abrupt move to protect Li Ziyuning. To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 519. Behind Lu Feng, Zhao Yun, the Red Blood Dragon riders and the White Horse followers were equally unstoppable. They broke through Li Tang's camp gate in an instant and headed towards Li Yuanba. At this time, Li Yuanba had been fighting alone among Li Yuanji's hundreds of thousands of troops for nearly an hour. In this hour, he had been hit by more than a dozen arrows and was bleeding profusely. In fact, if Li Yuanba had both hammers in hand, he would have killed and injured nearly half of Li Yuanji's army in this hour. Unfortunately, he didn't even have the weapons at his disposal now. In this hour, the corpses in Li Yuanba's hands had been changed 3 times. The first few corpses were full of arrows because they were used to resist bows and arrows. In fact, according to Li Yuanba's strength, even without weapons, he could avoid being hurt by bows and arrows just by relying on the corpse in his hand. But at this time, after all, he was drugged by Li Yuanji and was weak. He knew that if there was no external stimulation, he would probably become more and more drowsy as the power of the medicine dissipated, and he would eventually be knocked to the ground directly. Since Li Yuanji had already treated him so cruelly, once he fainted, he might never wake up again. Therefore, Li Yuanba deliberately let his back and thighs and other non-critical parts be shot by bows and arrows, using the pain of the arrows to relieve the power of the drug. And under normal circumstances, you should not pull out the arrow directly after being hit. This will cause the hole in the blood vessel to be irreparable, causing excessive bleeding and even death. But in order not to let the bow and arrow stuck in his body affect his fighting, and to better stimulate himself and keep himself in the best condition, Li Yuanba pulled out all the arrows stuck in his body. It is precisely because of this that Li Yuanba now has blood, both his own and his enemies', which makes him look like a bloody man fighting in blood. But even so, Li Yuan's domineering physical fitness made him still unstoppable. With a corpse in each hand, he stood alone in front of Wan Liun and smashed away the Li Tang soldiers who rushed forward one by one. Such a brave performance, coupled with his eyes widened due to anger, his sickly face, skinny figure, and the blood all over his body, made him really look like a life-seeking evil ghost coming out of hell. Generally, just when Li Yuanji was helpless with Li Yuanba in front of him, a cry of killing came from the rear of the army again. Li Yuanji suddenly looked back and was frightened to death. The person coming is none other than Dragon Emperor Lu Feng. He didn't kill Li Yuanba, who was unarmed and in poor condition. At this time, Lu Feng, who was as good as Li Yuanba in his heyday, came. How could he resist? Moreover, Lu Feng was not alone. Behind him were the equally powerful Zhao Yun and thousands of cavalry. In the eyes of ordinary soldiers like Li Tang, whether it was Lu Feng or Zhao Yun, they were gods of murder that they could not resist. The thousands of cavalry were also like tigers emerging from their cages. In front of them, they could only act like a lamb to the slaughter. At this time, Li Yuanji felt extremely regretful. He only thought about killing Li Yuanba, but he ignored that now was the time when the two armies were fighting. Feeler reminds you, 3 things about reading, collecting and recommending. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 520. But with such a loud killing sound in his camp, something must have happened. With the Dragon Emperor's scheming character, he would not miss such a good opportunity. Thinking of this, Li Yuanji wanted to slap himself twice. If he had known better, he should have arranged some scouts and set up tens of thousands of ambushes at the must-pass route to his camp. Although it may not necessarily hurt Lu Feng and Zhao Yun, it can at least cause heavy losses to their cavalry. After all, they only have a total of more than 20,000 direct troops. If these 6,000 cavalry can be severely damaged, future battles will be easier. But the matter had come to this, and there was no use regretting it. Li Yuanji had no choice but to let the soldiers around him rush forward to stop Lu Feng, while constantly retreating backwards. However, what Li Yuanji didn't expect was that Lu Feng's target was not him. In fact, since entering the camp of Li Tang's army, Lu Feng didn't even look at Li Yuanji, but rushed straight in the direction of Li Yuanba. Seeing this scene, Li Yuanji felt a little secretly happy. It turned out that Lu Feng also knew that Li Yuanba was difficult to deal with. Even if he could tie with Li Yuanba on his own, it would be very difficult to kill him. But what Lu Feng did next completely surprised Li Yuanji, because Lu Feng did not rush over to kill Li Yuanba while he was wounded all over, but instead killed the archers who were eager to shoot arrows with Li Yuanba one by one. Lu Feng then stayed around Li Yuanba and helped him kill all Li Tang's soldiers who were close to him. Seeing this scene, Li Yuanji was even more shocked. He could never understand the actions of the Tang dynasty and the Dragon Kingdom. If the Dragon Emperor appeared in the camp of the Tang dynasty at this time, it would be forgiven if he wanted to take advantage of the situation and kill him, the commander of the pioneer army of the Tang dynasty. But looking at Lu Feng's behavior, he didn't do it himself. Instead, he seemed to come to save Li Yuanba. But Li Yuanba was obviously the only general in the entire Tang dynasty army who could stop Lu Feng and draw a tie with him. Li Yuanba was dead. Shouldn't he be very happy? So why did he come to save him instead? Could it be that Lu Feng is also a martial arts idiot like the monster Li Yuanba, and feels sympathy for his opponents who are equally matched with him? In fact, from the perspective of Li Ziyuning and Chang Sun Wujiao, the reason why Lu Feng agreed to rescue Li Yuanba was because of their beauty and wanted to make them his maids. But in Lu Feng's heart, what he really cared about was Li Yuanba, the infinite warrior. When he asked Wei Zheng to go to Chang'an to instigate Li Jiancheng, he was already plotting against Li Yuanba. Otherwise, with Lu Feng's status as a supreme tiger general, he would have killed Li Yuanba instantly with one shot as early as the first time the two of them fought, and there would be no need for him to go to great lengths to reach a tie with him using only 50% of his strength. After all, Li Yuanba was also the second Wuji war general in the millennium since Yang Yu, the overlord of Western Chu. It was a pity to die like this. Only by becoming a soldier of the Dragon Kingdom and killing all the aliens could he live up to his Wuji war general's identity. However, as Li Yuan's son, Li Yuanba had no possibility of directly defecting to the Dragon Kingdom, and he was not very smart, so he only listened to Li Shiman's words, which stopped Lu Feng's idea. To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao.